All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another amazing session here at Unicon. We had an amazing day yesterday, a lot of fun, a lot of amazing speakers, and today is turning out to be a blast as well. It's been a busy start, and each session is been very engaging. And today for this session, we have a couple of amazing individuals, and we are going to talk about some growth strategies for direct to consumer brands, particularly focused on micro influencers. So, for that, I have Brianna, who's the community manager for Miss Tyler, which is a social shopping platform that matches shoppers to like bodied content creators and has been downloaded by over 500,000 women. Cara is the director of growth at Mavely, a leading social commerce technology platform helping everyday influencers earn income via partnerships with major brands. Thank you so much for joining, both of you. It's amazing to have you here.
Thank you for having us. Excited to be here. Hi, everyone.
Same
Do you
here.
both do you both want to add something more to your introductions? Tell a little bit about your backgrounds, and then we'll get started. Brianna, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So nice to meet everybody. I'm Brianna. I've been working with Miss Tyler, which, as you mentioned, is a global women's fashion startup app. And I've been on the team for about 2 years. So it's been amazing to be on this team. What I really enjoy about the platform so much is that it really is all about authenticity. It's about finding relevant fashion inspiration and finding a supportive group of women who either have a body like yours that you can shop from and find that representation in and you see your own body in, or you find other women who are totally different from you, and it's just nice to see different bodies, different ages. So it's totally different from something like Instagram or what we typically imagine fashion to look like. This is something that I always wanted fashion to look like, so it's amazing to be a part of it.
Awesome, Brianna. Cara?
So cool. Yeah, so as Pratik said already, I'm the director of growth at Mavely, and Mavely is really a platform for what we call everyday influencers to monetize. So we do that a couple of ways through brand campaign opportunities as well as affiliate links. And so it's pretty cool. We're partnered with over 900 different retailers. And I believe now we have close to 45,000 influencers on our platform. So we've had a ton of success in the last couple of years, and it's just been really fun to continue to empower creators to earn more.
That's awesome. And that is essentially, one of the biggest challenges we face as creators, right? Like getting to a point where you can start monetizing to some extent. And before we get there, right, and today we're going to talk a lot about micro influencers. And to set the context, how do you both define who is a micro influencer? Because I see a lot of different numbers thrown out there. But for both of you, how do you see who makes a micro influencer? Cara, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. So, I just touched on it a little bit that Mavely is truly this everyday influencer platform. And, from my perspective, an everyday influencer is someone that engages with their audience in a really authentic and trusted way, no matter their follower count. So you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of followers to really have that engaged audience. And I think that that's what's really key with a micro influencer is that they know their audience really, really well, and they are that trusted advocate that their followers look to for advice. So that's what I kind of define a micro influencer as.
Yeah, I totally agree. We actually have a very similar perspective over at Miss Tyler. Popularity does not equal relevance, and so what's really nice about the micro influencers is that they're authentic, they're relatable, there's someone that consumers can see themselves in, and so yeah, the numbers of followers does not really have anything to do with it. It could be in the hundreds, it could be in the thousands, it could be in the tens of thousands, whatever it might be. What really matters is that authenticity and the relevance.
All right, that makes sense. So let's dive a little bit more, right? And you both talked about authenticity, and that's essential for any influencer marketing campaign, to be honest. But when you're really looking at micro influencers, where there isn't a lot of followers, there isn't that many engagement points to pick from. How do you know that you are identifying the most authentic for micro influencers for your brand? Brianna, maybe you want to go first.
Yeah. So with our brand, we're really a technology app that, like, the main authority figure is the influencers, and it is the women, the users who aren't even influencers who use our app. They're the they're the authentic people for their own bodies, for their own style. So while we are a fashion app, we're really a tech app. You might not have a lot of followers, but you are exactly what your body looks like. And so if there's only one person who follows you, but they are the same exact height, or they're just off by a couple inches, they're the same exact size, or again, just off by a couple sizes, there's someone who looks just like you. They're trying on clothes that maybe you don't know that brand. And so it gives you the idea and the confidence to try that brand. So really, whether you have one follower, whether you have 10 followers, whether you have hundreds of followers, etc., the relevance just really matters to who's looking at you. And so that's what's really cool about our brand.
All right, that's awesome. Cara, what do you think about that, right? Like, how do you make sure that as a brand, when you're identifying micro influencers, how do you make sure you find the right ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really depends on what the brand's goal of their ultimate campaign is to determine what success looks like for, an influencer to, whether it's brand awareness that they're looking to achieve or driving sales. If it's an engagement campaign where they're kind of looking more so for meaningful engagement, like, shares or sending, that content to someone else. I think those KPIs really vary depending on the goals of that brand. And every brand is kind of, bespoke in their needs. And so then I think you kind of pick the creators that are going to cater to those goals at the end of the day. It's not really a one size fits all approach.
Got it. And you said that, a large part of it is your goal, right? So are there certain types of goals that micro influencers fit better for?
Definitely. I mean, I think what I kind of touched on earlier too, I feel like I keep repeating this, but I think it's that engagement metric that micro influencers really have. You can look at a macro influencer that has a really large following, but really low engagement. Whereas some of these micro influencers may have smaller follower counts, but are really, really engaged with their audiences. And so that's, I think, the sweet spot is, if you want to create a buzz, if you want to get people talking about your brand, if you want to truly drive sales, you can do that with micro influencers. And you may see, and most often do see, stronger results from that perspective than you would, securing a really large creator for a campaign that might cost a fortune and not actually drive the same results that you're looking for.
Do you think micro influencers also help with a lot better targeting and, overall could bring better ROI? Brianna?
Absolutely. And I think also something that, is implied, but we haven't necessarily said explicitly just yet, is the diversity aspect of it all. So, yeah, they're partnering, but also you're getting that content, you're getting that representation of different bodies. So say it's a brand that, it tends to promote the same type of e-commerce models or whatever models it might be for their campaigns. Now, all of a sudden, you're seeing different faces and different bodies and different ages. And so all of a sudden, your consumers are seeing themselves represented in your brand. And you know what, maybe this brand really is interested in me, or maybe this is the right brand for me because I see clothing on bodies that look like me, or I see clothing on other women over 40, because fashion isn't just for women in their 20s. And so not only is it helping with the ROIs and bringing all of that interest in, but it's really helping other folks see themselves in the brand and seeing that there's a market for them there. They're not
So Brianna,
invisible.
you've mentioned that you anyway rely on a lot of content and from influencers, right? That's what is fueling growth for you. As you've worked with these smaller nano micro influencers, do you have any examples that you could share that you did a campaign and it brought some really good or new perspective thanks to micro influencers?
Yeah, definitely. So we solely work with micro influencers. We found our creators through Instagram for the most part in the very beginning, where we were looking already for creators who were already practicing kind of what we do on the app. So, we were looking at hashtags for fashion over 40 or whatever it might be. And we were identifying women who already are fashion bloggers or have interest in fashion. And so what they're already practicing everything that needs to be done, but maybe they don't have the opportunities to work directly with brands. And so we helped make that happen. And so in working with brands, brands are willing to gift products in order for content. But what they find is that a lot of the women who are, chosen for these campaigns are really excited about being chosen because they didn't know that this was an option for them. They aren't the Kim Kardashians. They don't see that, these opportunities aren't happening everywhere. It's not like they can turn them down or not like they're being offered them all the time. And so some women are just so excited to get a gifted outfit or a couple of gifted outfits that they'll arrange a photographer, then do a little photo shoot, and they over deliver because it's really exciting for them. A lot of them don't have any professional photos of themselves before these campaigns. And now that they do, it's really exciting because all of a sudden they get really excited seeing themselves as models or seeing each other as models and saying, this woman is in her 70s and finally she's seeing herself represented and feeling good and feeling like her body is a good body, that she doesn't have to change herself. And so you find a lot of the confidence coming from these campaigns, and you also see the content performing really well for the brands because the brands will post this content then on their social or on their website, and they'll see a lot of excitement from consumers saying, wow, where's this model been? And so it's nice to see both ends being happy.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great example. And I'm sure it's a good feeling as a brand also to be able to work with folks like this, right? Cara, you said that you work with everyday influencers. How do you find folks to onboard onto your platform?
Yeah, so we're looking for any influencer that has that engaged audience. And so in order to sign up for Mavely, you don't have to have a huge follower count. We really do cater to those micro nano influencers in addition to the macro ones. But I think what sets us apart is that we don't gatekeep. We're providing a tool for anyone to monetize, and we want to give equal opportunity to those micro influencers to have access to brand campaigns and high commission affiliate earnings, just like the macro influencers. And so, we're that's what kind of sets us apart. I think a lot of other competitors in the space do kind of gatekeep, and they have those benchmarks in place. And it can be really defeating as a creator who's trying to, make their way into it and learn the ropes and gain that following or drive sales and earn. And so, to be accepted to those programs. And so, we kind of built our platform in the opposite way where we said, hey, anyone can join. And, we're just a tool to help you monetize.
Got it. And Cara, do you think that, as you work with brands also on the other side, right? And do you get this a lot that, this influencer looks too small and, doesn't have enough following? Is there any point doing this? Do you hear that often?
No, I don't
That's
think
good.
so. I think, I wouldn't say that it doesn't happen. I think that that's more of a conversation with the brands up front. And it's kind of like, we're the experts. We know what's going to work, and we're going to, kind of handpick the best creators for this campaign based on the goals that brand is trying to achieve. And so, we'll work really closely with them to ensure, this creator might not have that huge, following, as I've said before, but look at their engagement. Or a lot of times we'll actually use the data from, the organic affiliate sales that they're already driving for the brand and say, hey, look at, they drove this amount of sales for you. They're a great contender to have, and initiate this campaign with. So we definitely use the data, to kind of back into that. But I think that's also, maybe just education on the brand side too, to kind of reframe creators. You don't have to go after just those macro ones. There's so much potential, and these micro influencers are incredible and can really drive those results that you're looking for.
That's awesome. And Brianna, you mentioned something before where, one of the advantages of working with micro influencers is the diversity that they bring on board, right? Both for themselves as well as their audience that they bring for your brand, right? So, as a brand, when you approach a lot of these micro influencers, do you have to take any kind of different approach to make sure that you understand this diversity part well?
Yeah, I would say, it depends on the person, right? And their experience, because not every influencer is the same. It depends on it also depends on like what they do. Are they known of being a fashion blog? Are they in the fashion space professionally, or are they doing this on the side? Are they working in the corporate world? Are they a mom who stays at home but uses fashion and Miss Tyler as an outlet to express her creativity? And so, especially when you're working with brand campaigns, right? You want to make sure that the brands that we're partnering with are going to be happy with the content, but you also want to make sure that micro influencers are set up for success and that they're able to share their own style, their own voice, their own brand in their own way. And so sometimes brands will come to us and want to partner with some of our creators, and it's just not a right fit for some of our micro influencers because it's not aligned with their own brands, our influencers' brands. And so, you definitely don't want to expect folks to over deliver or have to compromise on what their identity is. When I say over deliver, I mean things like, expecting a brand who maybe is not super um, body positive or, catering to extended sizing, and expecting all of a sudden they're creating, maybe one size and they're expecting influencers to say, hey, this is a super diverse brand and it caters to all these sizes. It's size inclusive. If they're only stopping at a size 20, and you're asking a size 20 person to share this with their audience, then maybe this isn't the right fit. We have to approach it a different way.
That makes sense, Brianna. Thank you so much. There's a question for you, Cara, in the chat, and Lewis says he's from an internet service provider. They recently launched an e-commerce service, and they're trying to find ways in sales and marketing. Any advice on how you should go about micro influencers, especially for this e-commerce service, and if you have any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think joining an affiliate platform like Mavely gives you instant access to our influencer base, and so I can give you kind of a good example of this. But we had a brand join us called Woot, which is a retailer, this January, and in January they were probably driving about $20,000 a month in sales. They onboarded to Mavely, and we had 1,500 unique influencers start promoting them just organically from having them available on our platform. And now they're averaging about $400,000 in sales a month. So it's very meaningful, revenue for a brand to join an affiliate platform. So I would highly encourage that if you can. That's a great question. And then, of course, depending on the needs of your brand too, you can always think about doing, larger campaign opportunities as well for, brand awareness or content creation or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. But hopefully that's a good example of kind of the impact that a platform like Mavely can have on a brand.
Yeah, that is definitely a great example. And what are some challenges that you might run into if you're working with micro influencers? Some things that as a brand you should be careful about.
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know that I have a great answer in terms of a challenge that you're going to run into, but if I could give, a brand a piece of advice, it would just be to have clearly defined goals, before initiating a campaign, or really understand what you're hoping to achieve. And then, Mavely, like, we do everything we can to support that brand to achieve those objectives. But I think just having that really clearly defined and outlined, and especially because it's important to set that expectation for the creators involved so that they know, are they fitting your brand image? Are they meeting your expectations, your timelines? All of that is really key. And so something that we really strive on is also open lines of communication between our brands and our creators, just to make sure that we are delivering, what their ask is. But I think in terms of a brand, that's really key, is understanding your goals. And then also, I think having something that creators can get behind and promote. So I think about, you see Ulta do their 21 days of beauty, or you have Amazon Prime Day. Creators love to have something to get behind and promote to their audience. So if you can run a great deal or a sale, or, give them that ammo they need to then go out and promote your brand, that's always really beneficial too.
I think that's great advice and very good example. Brianna, I have a question for you. And one of the things with micro influencer campaigns is you're going to probably work with a lot of micro influencers, and life on social media is pretty short. How do you as a brand make sure that all this effort you've put towards working with micro influencers, they create some post for you or a content piece for you, how do you make it last longer? Can you do something more with that piece of content?
Absolutely, yeah. So with our brand partnerships with our creators, not only are you getting the content to go live on social media as well as on our social e-commerce app, but a lot of the time you're also getting those assets that you can then use in your organic posts or your paid posts, also on your website. So all of a sudden, something that goes live once or maybe a few times, depending on how many posts are negotiated, can live for a couple of months, because now you can include it in your own campaigns, or you can hold on to that and post that onto your organic pages in a couple of months or weeks or whenever. So it's really nice, because then all of a sudden you see that reaching more audiences, reaching at another time. Maybe if folks didn't see the first post go live, all of a sudden, if it's in a paid campaign, folks can see it multiple times over the course of a couple months. So it's really nice to see that, spread out and hit the right target audience, and not all at once.
All right, makes sense. And I think we talked about how some of these micro influencers don't even know that they can influence, and sometimes they get excited. But as we work with a wider set of micro influencers, how do you make sure that you can maintain some level of consistency in quality as well as messaging? And I know that as a brand, you would want to give creative freedom to these creators, because at the end of the day they are creators, right? And you don't want to have a specification that they should follow. But is there some way in which you can still ensure some level of quality and coherence? Cara, maybe you want to start.
Sure. So I think creative freedom is very important, because what I found is that when you give a creator that freedom to create the content, they're going to have more fun with it. It's going to be in their voice. It's going to seem more natural, authentic, organic to them. And their audience is going to pick up on that too. If it seems forced and they're sticking to a script that's not in their words, that's going to come across, and you will see it in terms of results. And so I think that creative freedom is so key for that creator to, produce content. But I think where we've seen success is with those brand campaigns, having a kickoff call with the brand and the creator to ensure we know what the goals are. We know that, when the deliverables need to be in by, what the overall alignment on the campaign is, to set those creators up for success. And then, I mentioned this earlier, but I think open lines of communication too. So when a creator produces that content, sharing it back with the brand to get feedback, and kind of going from there. So it's not it's just to ensure that campaign is more of a success. So I would think it's kind of a balance. It's making sure the creators have their clearly defined goals, but the brand also gives them a little bit of flexibility, because at the end of the day, creators are content creators, right? That's their forte. That's why brands want to work with them.
That's awesome, Cara. Thank you so much. And Brianna, I want your take on this as well. But before I get to you, we have roughly about 5 minutes left. So everybody who's listening, if you have any questions, please drop it in the chat or in the Q&A section, and I'll be happy to pick them up from there. But Brianna, what's your take on this?
I totally agree with everything Cara just said. Yeah. Like if you ask an influencer, hey, we like your stuff, we like all the content you're creating, but can you, change this a little bit? Like not change the content already being created, but let's say, we like the content you're doing for other brands. Can you do this, but with these different, basically, can we micromanage how you're creating your content? All of a sudden, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb to the audience. Audience follow micro influencers because they feel real. They don't feel like, oh, this person's getting paid $20,000 to promote a brand to me, and so I should support them so that they're getting paid. No, like they want to find brands, they want to find things that their micro influencers who they trust actually believe in. And so giving them the creative permission to create exactly how they want to, whether, how they would say it organically, that's going to be the best result.
Do you folks agree that micro influencers tend to have more authentic connections with their followers than influencers that get really big?
I think so. Not to say that having a large audience does not mean you have an engaged audience. That's not the case. But I do think that oftentimes I see those micro influencers know their audience through and through. They dedicate the time to responding to comments and, really having conversations and meaningful conversations. And you maybe don't have the time as your following grows and you get more and more comments. So it can kind of, differ. So it's not to say that that's the case for all macro influencers, but I would definitely say that micro influencers oftentimes have a very engaged audience that they're often in communication with, which I love.
Brianna, what do you think?
Absolutely agree. You can't say that for everybody. I know some macro influencers who really they spend hours a day engaging with their audience on Instagram, answering DMs, and that's amazing. But that's not for all of them, right? And so a lot of the micro influencers really do have those conversations where they know that their audiences are asking, hey, do you have any wide-fitting shoes that I can, find? Or what do you recommend for this kind of stuff? And so they really do have that constant communication, and that it's happening, or you can see it in their comment section. You don't have to wonder about their DMs. You can see it in their Instagram stories and how their content really is created more so with that engaging with the audience in mind. And so the engagement really shows. And so it's nice to see that when they have that strong engagement, that their audiences are having that great bond with those micro influencers.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question, and I asked this because of a little bit of a selfish interest as well, because I was just talking about this topic with somebody else, and I've been starting to be more active on LinkedIn as a creator as well, and I crossed that nano to micro influencer sort of a bridge, and now I have about 11K followers. And I was telling this to someone that micro influencers have better authentic conversations. So he asked me like, so would you not want to grow too big? And I was like, is growing too big a problem then? Right? And what do you folks think about that?
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's very exciting. No, I mean, I don't think it's a problem. It's not a downside. I think maybe you just shift your strategy and your goals accordingly, and your priorities kind of change. And so, I don't think that it's a negative by any means. But maybe, as I said, kind of your priorities shift in terms of how you're going to monetize or what your strategy is to engage with your audience moving forward. But I think, regardless, it'll open more doors and opportunities for you. So that's a good thing.
All right, we're just about running out of time. Any last comments? If we have a bunch of folks who are listening here who work with DTC brands or who are marketers, also content creators themselves, quick 30-second tips, advice on how they can use micro influencers better in their strategies. Brianna?
Just be open to what the content creator's branding is like. Might not seem like a great fit at first. You might just say, they don't have enough followers, or I don't know if they're really a fit for me. If they are interested, I don't understand why they're interested. Having that conversation really can do wonders.
All right, that's great. Cara?
I think I would echo what Brianna just said.
Awesome. Great. I think this was a fun conversation, and I'm sure people have a lot of takeaways from this. Thank you so much for spending time on a Saturday, to talk to all of us. This was really fun.
Thank you for having us. This was a great time.
Great questions as well.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.